Kate says that I was taught growing up Catholic is that every single decision we make is predetermined and already known by God. This is a big hang up, predeterminism, right?
Yeah.
She says, looking at that idea, it makes it seem as if we are destined for heaven or hell at the beginning of our existence. Sorry if this was discussed previously. No, this, Katie, is a fantastic question.
It is, yeah. Let me tell you something, Katie, that might surprise you. The majority of Christians today don't believe that. Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox. Now they have some nuances and things, but the idea that God has predetermined from all eternity who goes to heaven and who goes to hell, it's actually a narrow number of people today who believe that. Now, I actually reject that idea and reject something else that a lot of Christians do believe. And that is whether or not God knows with absolute certainty everything that's going to happen in the future. I also reject that. That's part of being an open theist. So I think God not only doesn't control, but God doesn't foreknow the future. And that makes, in my mind, a big difference when we talk about love, how our lives make a difference, and how the future is not yet settled, and we have a real hand in what's going to happen.
Awesome. Erica says, as long as Trump is not in heaven, she's okay.
Well, I'm not a Trump fan either, but I have at least a big enough imagination that God might be able to change Donald Trump's heart.
Maybe. Okay, yeah, all right.
Let me tell you, let me add in there, I don't think God can do it without Donald deciding to cooperate.
Okay.
So some of our, in the Christian tradition, have used the word purgatory. I'm not opposed to purgatory entirely. I'm opposed to some versions of it. But one way of thinking of it is that someone, in here we're picking on Donald Trump, but I'll just continue there, that there has to be a way for people to come to recognize their need to confess, to repent, to be transformed. And I think God never gives up on anybody, including Donald Trump. So I am optimistic that God can even convince the Donald to be different. I just wish it would happen earlier than later, but
oh, this is a big question.
Okay.
Kaylee asks, do you think the Antichrist is a single person or more of a concept/phenomenon? I have heard both perspectives.
Yeah, it's interesting that word Antichrist doesn't show up in the entire book of Revelation. It's only found, I think it's in 2nd or 3rd John.
Yeah.
And in that particular context, it's not talking about an individual or even a movement or anything like that. It's talking about people who deny that Jesus is a human. They're Gnostics. And so that word has then kind of taken a life of its own out of its context and come to represent either a figure or a movement or an idea that's against God. So I want to start sort of biblically by saying, Antichrist in the Bible isn't what Antichrist is in, the Left Behind series or something like that. So I typically don't think a lot about the Antichrist, to be honest with you. I think a lot about cooperating or not cooperating with God. And if you're not cooperating with God, then I guess you're Antichrist in the sense that Christ is the one of love. But I don't think of like history like being going toward a moment in which, I don't know, somebody in the United Nations or some country is a leader. I don't usually think like that. I don't think the Bible requires us to think in that way.
I always think of it as just basically what it says. Like when I fail to love my neighbor as myself, I'm acting in Antichrist ways. And I do that all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. So it's like, for me, the whole Antichrist concept is not, I mean, when we get caught up in accusing others of being the Antichrist, it's an Antichrist thing to do. We get caught up in the Antichrist mechanism of not loving even our enemies as we love ourselves.